Measley here, dreams of Warcraft.
Hey guys, it's Measley again, and I know it's been a while. I've been quite busy with both work and my other YouTube channel, and also don't have that much reason to make videos about Battle for Azeroth as it is right now. However, a few weeks ago I was able to get into the classic WoW beta, and have been playing it occasionally. And I've gotta say the hype is real, not just for me, but for countless other players looking to play this version of the game when it comes out. And in case you didn't know, I've been playing WoW all the way since the launch of Vanilla. And having played it quite extensively, I'm excited to go back to experience it and to share my knowledge and insights in the form of guides to come. But in this first video about Classic WoW, I'm gonna share what I think are the top 5 reasons you should get into playing Classic as well. And with that, sit back and relax and enjoy the video. First up, at number 5, we have story and lore. Now, the reason that people were so hyped for the release of WoW was because they were coming off of a high from playing Warcraft 3. We enjoyed it not only for its engaging and creative RTS gameplay, but also for its incredibly well-written campaign filled with interesting characters. And this is where people first got started to get invested into characters like Arthas, Thrall, Malfurion, and Illidan. And so it was extremely exciting to get to be part of a world alongside these heroes and villains. And also finally being able to explore Azeroth and watch the story unfold moving forward. In the Warcraft 3 expansion pack, The Frozen Throne, the story actually ended with a giant cliffhanger. We got to see the Death Knight Arthas ascend the Frozen Throne and fulfill his destiny by merging with the Lich King, becoming the ruler of the undead and the greatest threat Azeroth has ever seen since the Burning Legion. And such was the context when people first began to play World of Warcraft. In Classic, you'll be able to experience Azeroth just 4 years after the events of Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos. Instead of being touted as a hero, you'll be able to see what it was like being an ordinary soldier of the Alliance or the Horde. You'll also be able to face off against some of the older threats of Azeroth, like the Ogres of Dire Maw and the Centaur of Meralden, the Dark Iron Dwarves and the Fire Elemental Lord Ragnaros of Blackrock Mountain, Nefarian, the son of the Black Dragon, Deathwing the Destroyer, the Gurubashi Trolls of Zul'Gurub, servants of the Old Gods, the Insectoid Karaji who dwell in the lost city of Ahn'Qiraj, and finally, powerful minions and lieutenant of the Lich King himself in the floating necropolis of Naxxramas, and countless quests, storylines, and even experiences you won't be able to find on retail World of Warcraft. Next, at number 4, we have differences in not only spec and class, but also in how the game is balanced as well. So things are definitely not as simple as just classes and specs playing differently than how they do right now, but the roles that they serve in different parts of the endgame are generally different as well. For example, pure DPS classes deal more damage than hybrid classes in endgame PvE, whereas hybrid classes are still useful for their healing and utility. In PvP, each class is generally viable, but certain specs are favored for certain roles like flag carrying. Each class has clear strengths and weaknesses, and are also less homogenized than in retail WoW. With how talent trees and gear can be set up, this even creates room for gimmicky specs like the 3-minute Palm Pyro Mage, the 2-handed Enhancement Shaman who relies on huge Wind Fury procs to insta-gib people, and even high armor Soul Link Warlocks that are virtually unkillable. And another thing I find cool about vanilla class design is that there's less pruning of abilities, which means there are a lot of abilities that are not that useful but are still used in sort of gimmicky ways, like how I would use Sentry Totem to monitor the Warsong Gulch flag rule, and even find uses for lower ranked spells for mana efficiency and faster cast times. That is, you can really feel the differences in design philosophies between Classic and retail. And thus, playing any spec on Classic will allow you to experience something fresh and different. Next, at number 3, we actually have the fact that the game is challenging across multiple aspects. To complete quests, you'll actually have to read and rely on the quest text. That is, if you don't use a third-party site. But still, the fact that there are fewer quality of life features makes the game feel more immersive and challenging. And I especially enjoy that even leveling is far from trivial. When was the last time you actually had to min-max your character and to use every trick in the book just to level up? Even though it's much faster on retail, the fact that you're just able to plow through everything and sort of face roll while leveling makes it sort of mindless and boring. Nowadays, it seems like it's all about leveling as fast as possible just to reach the endgame of the newest expansion. Then just have a whole bunch of gear essentially handed to you from world quests, warfronts, and looking for raid to get you ready for the so-called endgame. Well, in Classic, each and every level, much less decent gear, has to be worked for. Again, there are fewer quality of life features, monsters are just relatively stronger in general, gear and skill actually matter while leveling up, and even gold costs are not trivial, to the point that you have to save each and every copper just to be able to buy additional ranks of your spells. Now at first glance, and especially for people who have not played vanilla, this all seems like a bad and sort of anti-fun thing. But on the contrary, a lot of the streamers and YouTubers who have tried the beta have actually echoed the sentiment that this is actually a great thing. That Classic WoW is all about the journey. A journey of constantly overcoming challenges and of becoming somebody from nobody. While leveling is its own kind of game, once you hit level 60, you open up an endgame that's unlike any of the endgames of the following expansions. There were no daily quests, hubs, or an adventure journal to point you in a specific direction. And perhaps ironically, by not having these pointers, people actually felt the agency to be able to do whatever the heck they wanted. Dungeons were lengthy and difficult, but any gear upgrades felt extremely rewarding, and could stay with you for many weeks or even months. Raiding admittedly was a commitment that took a lot of time, but not doing it didn't mean you couldn't have fun and still progress your character. PvP, unless you were aiming for the top ranks, felt like less of a grind, and was fun to dominate over other players and showcase your skill in world PvP. Although players with better gear were significantly stronger in both raiding and PvP, there was much less of a pressure to reach a certain gear threshold or item level to be able to compete and have fun. And with Classic's endgame content being staggered into 6 separate phases, you'll be able to experience just what it was like back in the day, and be hyped for in-game events like the opening of the Scarab Gates and the global Scourge invasions. And especially if you're a hardcore player, it'll for sure be really cool to experience the absolute hardest endgame WoW Vanilla had to offer.
Cast out by my comrades, exiled, forced to wander the frozen wastes. But I was not alone, not entirely. The voice, now my only companion, guided me to my destination. Strange, nightmarish creatures awaited me at the entrance. I felt my blood run cold as Icecrown itself. Inside, I bore witness to horrific acts, demonstrations of power that could be mine for the asking. Terrified, I ran, but did not get far. All too soon, my choice was made. Too late did I realize that such power does not come without a price. The world will pay a far greater toll, for I have returned.
I am Kel'Thuzad. Your curiosity will be the death of you.
Finally, we have my personal #1 reason for playing Classic WoW, and that is its social aspect. First of all, having to coordinate and interact with people is such a huge part of the game because you simply can't progress without it. Since there's no LFG or dungeon queuing tool, you'll just have to form and join your own groups, and then communicate with your teammates because a lot of things simply aren't face roll like they are right now. And you could say that there's something good about being able to chill and relax while doing a LFR raid. And you could also make the argument that in modern WoW, people are still being challenged by high levels of heroic and mythic play, as well as PvP, and do indeed have to coordinate with other players, perhaps at a much higher level than before. But I think the fact that in Classic, even casuals are forced to socialize, is a really good thing for the game. Because if frequent interactions is a norm, people will tend to be less toxic, because they know there really isn't any alternative method to play the game. And this actually cultivates a really fun culture within the game, and makes it feel like an actual immersive, massively multiplayer game. And yet another thing I look forward to is the lack of cross-realm play and connected realms, because by constantly having to play with the same people on your realm, you get to develop actual communities and identities, and even face the same nemesis on the opposite faction. If you're really good at something or even just have some personal quirks, chances are you'll become well known on your server. That being said, some of my fondest experiences playing World of Warcraft come from playing with and against the same groups of players in PvP. I remember the Tauren Hunter, guild leader of the guild Stomp, who would always yell "Stomp! Stomp!" when he did his war stomp in Warsong Gulch. And I remember my friend Cowan Wolf, who was a Tauren warrior who would always ride on his Alterac Valley Frostwolf. And I remember my nemesis, the human paladin Kuklox, who later name changed to Kublox, who was actually reported for having a seemingly inappropriate name. And I remember my best in-game friend Stovetop, the undead warlock who would always heed my call to battle, who ventured with me in the sunken temple until 5 o'clock in the morning. All in all, I think the social aspect is one of the most forgotten and underrated things about WoW. I think it's what makes an MMO an MMO, and part of why these types of games were so popular back in the day. And that was my top 5 reasons for playing Classic WoW. If you liked the video and want to see more content and guides about Classic, be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.